Welcome to the Fire Podcast. Absolutely delighted to have two amazing guests today, Jeanet Salazar and Julio Martinez. They are a mother-son team, and Jeanet has years and years of experience bringing her young son onto the team, who brings lots of new ideas, new technology. But at the end of the day, they both are on the same page with delivering phenomenal world-class service to their clients, and also lots of great tips. I took lots of notes for myself, and I know there are amazing things for all of you to learn on this episode. Here we go. So let me start with your mom, Jeanet. Tell me how you just give me a little family history, starting back as far as you want to go. Or
I used to work for Disney in a 9-to-5 job, and we didn't have a lot of work to do. We just had to pretend we did a lot of work, otherwise you will be fired. So I will always be praying, God, give me something to do where I can, if I work more, I can make more. I will get paid Friday, and then by Monday I have no money again, because I'm raising, I'm a single mom, have 2 boys for a while, and I was just praying, give me something where I can work more and I can make more money.
You're such a self-starter too that I couldn't imagine you in a 9 to 5 that has no there's no upside.
No purpose.
No purpose. Yeah. What were you doing at Disney?
So we did Disney Channel. We're collecting money from small communities up north. Eureka was one of my cities for small TV stations.
Oh, I see.
And I will be giving this spreadsheet, and I have to work the whole month with the spreadsheet up and down and backwards and forwards just to pretend. I got it done in less than a week.
Of course you did.
But if you didn't,
if
you didn't have more to do, they could fire you.
Right.
And I couldn't afford to be fired.
Right.
So I will just be praying, and you couldn't even go to the internet, read a book, learn nothing. You just have to pretend. So as soon as the boss will come, the spreadsheet will have a ruler, and I keep looking.
Like, I'm a third of the way through it, Yeah,
and make notes to it just to pretend. And the day was so long.
Little did they know that if that you could have gotten 4 times the work done, and they could have just paid you double, and you would have done 4 times the work probably gladly.
Yeah. And bring more to their table. But from the boss to all of us, which were 6 of us, I don't know about the boss job, but everybody was just like me.
Oh, wow.
So they had to create positions to a point where if you ask for more, there's no room for more. You only get 2.5% or 3% increase. So if you want to scale up your position, there was no room.
Wow. But then, like you say, with 2 boys and working for a company like Disney, you had job security. You probably had health benefits.
I had health benefits. I had job security. I had 4 passes for Disneyland. Every day of the week I wanted, except certain holidays. We had a lot of security. My husband was driving a truck by then. So I got paid Friday. Monday I have no money, and I'm thinking, what am I going to do? I just need another job. I need to figure a way to do this. We were making $33,000 a year.
Wow.
This is 2001.
Wow. What was the transition into real estate?
So I called my friend and I asked her, what are you doing? She used to work for H&R Block during the time you're not doing taxes. She said, I became a real estate agent. And I go, what is that? She goes, I'm gonna give you the school you can go to while you do it at night. After the boys go to sleep, you get prepared for the exam. Then you can pass the exam. You could probably sell homes during the time that you're not doing much. I go, I need something. I just need something that will make me some money because I can't, it's just tough. So anyway, she took me to the school, passed the test. This is 2004 already. And I jump into the buying me a house. I was renting an apartment, and I said the first client is going to have to be me.
That's smart. Sure.
I had good credit. I had good income, almost $40,000 a year at that point. So I got my license, get this house, buy it. My husband at that point goes, we're not going to LA because we were going to the ghetto, the only place I could afford.
Where you can afford, yeah.
It was $165,000 home. So he goes, I want to go to either Cerritos or the Valley.
Right.
Those were $350,000 places. I go, no, we're going to where we can afford, and we want a house. We can go to a condo. We have kids, we have dogs. And bottom line is, he's like, I'm not going. I go, I guess Mr. Husband here, he wants to stay. I guess he wants to go somewhere, but this is my stuff, and we got to turn this apartment by Saturday. To make it short, I pack everything. I pretended that I hope he comes with me, because what am I going to do? But sure enough, at night, he showed up, and he's like, okay, let's do it here. I go, yeah, okay. Sign long docs, move everything.
Wow.
And that beautiful home was our first home, 2002.
Wow. That's amazing. And even just the story, you can tell, what a force of nature you are. Like, I'm going to do this, we'll get agreement later.
Yeah. We'll get an agreement later.
You just got to jump into it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I knew he was going to follow me. Where else would he go? So we started there. At the end, I got my license. I immediately started working part-time. I met this broker. The broker is telling me, I'll give you 60-40. But I go, somebody says they can give me better than this. He goes, okay, if you sell 5 homes in the next quarter, I can put you in an 80-20.
Wow.
So I sold 10 homes, okay? I wasn't even sleeping. I was going every single evening after work, doing open house. I was meeting everybody. I was talking to everybody. I will put me 50 business cards in my purse, giving everybody cards. We ended up selling 10 homes. So I said, you're not giving me 80, you're giving me 90 now, because the next quarter I'm gonna sell more for you. So I quit Disney, and I started my whole thing, and I never looked back.
Wow, that is so it's so amazing. How do you sell 10 houses in your first quarter in the business?
We closed 303,000 that year, that calendar year. So because you're hungry, you have no money, you're extremely broke. You have 2 kids. And one of my oldest boy got jumped at one of the corners on the house, because we're living in South Central. Yeah. And the boys attack him, like 3 of them, and he got home crying, and he's like, I don't like this neighborhood, Mom. So then I go, we better move to a better neighborhood. Of course, it's not going to be now, but eventually we will. So we stuck there, and that was one of my biggest motivator to go find me another better house. Yes. I ended up selling that $165,000 home for $425,000. That is all I needed to go to a better neighborhood.
Amazing. How long were you in that house?
2.5 years.
Wow.
So I needed to move.
Yeah, so then you made a good buy on the way in as well. Yeah.
165 to 425. So all that money was taken to the next house.
Did you fix it up a little too?
No, I bought it already remodeled. But it was in really weird neighborhood. But they, people
as
love that area.
change, yeah.
And I just needed to get out of there.
Sure.
For my boy.
Sure. And where did you move?
Moved to Downey.
Oh, wow.
And that's where I lived for 16 years.
Yes. Did you sell in your first year?
$303,000. I needed to be Centurion agent, and you needed to be at 250.
250,000 in gross
GCI,
commission. Yeah.
So I exceeded that number. I was so hungry, Paul. I didn't sleep thinking, I can do this. I can do this. This is much more money than Disney.
I was going to say, what a tremendously huge jump up in income.
Right. From almost 40,000 to 303,000. To me, I wasn't even thinking about the money no more. I was just thinking, this is huge. I could do so much. Little did I know it was just the market being so good.
The market
was just
let me tell
giving
you
you a lot.
Yeah, the market gives you a lot, and let me tell you.
2005, 2006, those 2 years were over 300,000. But a lot of people didn't even create, not even 150,000.
Exactly. I always say, you can find people that do not do well in the best markets.
Yeah.
There's lots of them, and then you can find people that crush it in a tough market. There's a lot fewer of them, but there's still people, no matter what the market is. And people say, well, the market, you make your own market.
You make your own market, and it's in your head.
Oh, for sure.
Because you're so hungry, or you're so mindful about what you want, that you're not looking at anything else. He was little. I hired a nanny to come and live with us. So the only time I will spend with him is taking him to school. The rest of the day was the nanny. She will do, everything with him. So I spend a very little time with him. And later on, I was like, I hope this one is okay, because I didn't spend time. He wasn't talking, but my husband was so good about sports, and he really liked sports since he was little.
I was the youngest of 5, and by the time the 5th comes around, they're like, right?
Oh, forget.
And then I had a nanny that was really instrumental when I was certainly when I was little. Yeah.
Right. But I work very hard. I work very purposeful. We have a pride for our clients.
Oh, no question.
Our biggest line is, if the client calls me, I'm late on updates. Because we take care of them. At least every other day we're on that.
Yeah.
And our assistant first priority is to make sure she texts, she communicates via email. Even if she gets no response, she must call them before she finishes her day.
I'm taking that down as a quote.
Email.
Client calls us, we're late.
Yeah.
We're late.
Email, text, and call, and you got to hit them in different directions, because they might not see the email, they might not see the text. Some prefer a call, and so
some a little bit more care than others. One, just give him a text and he's happy.
Yeah.
But there are people that are a little bit more detailed on how they want things. So I wanted to be the realtor who, the difference between other people. Most realtors don't communicate with their clients.
Yeah.
So I want to be the opposite of that. So when he walked into the business, he brought that more than what I used to do, and in a more modern way.
That's right.
And that really helps. Most of our reviews is because Jeanet always communicated back. Either she had the answer or she didn't.
And if it's bad news, you still
have to.
You got to share.
You communicate right away.
And if you have no news, he goes, go to InfoSparks and find something.
InfoSparks in the MLS, screenshot average sales price for the last month,
new listing
the
on
zip
the
code,
market,
and send it to them. Do something that's going to give them some information, and something that you said bad news too. Something that I say in listing appointments is, if I hold an open house for your house and 2 people show up and both people did not like it, I'm going to ask for that feedback in text, and I'm going to screenshot it, and I'm going to send it to you. I'm not going to hide bad news. I'm here to be that sharer of news and for us to figure out a solution. Because me hiding bad news is me not communicating with you, which is going to lead us to more problems down the line.
For sure.
So that's,
And I know how that is. You get a client and they think their house is great, and they're not getting many showings, and then the showings they get the feedback, and it's tough to send them. It's tough to give them that information when they're not when they're not open.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you got to do it anyway.
You got to do it. You got to do it. And it's easier to get lower price.
Oh, yeah.
Lower them. Make them lower their price.
Yeah.
Come to reality.
Right.
And it comes as a shock. But you can only be shocked for a little bit. The next day, you're going to have to come to reality.
That's right.
So
what? So you've been in the business. So you've been in the business about 20 years.
Almost 20 years. Yeah.
And what? The market's been a little weird or whatever. What sort of size of business do you do now?
So far, we're closed 25 sites, completely closed. We have 9 active, and 5 pending. 9 active, 5 pending, and 25 closed.
Wow. And what volume is that? Does that represent?
It's about 15 million value.
Wow.
14.9.
Enclosed.
Enclosed.
Uh-huh.
Then a couple, like almost 3 million in pendings.
And has it gotten slower for you guys, or it's been about the same? Like a year or two ago, the market was hot again.
Yeah, 2 years ago it was much hotter than now. Now it's just requiring a little bit changes in our strategic way of how we get to clients. We had less referrals before. Now we have more referrals.
And how are you shifting your business to change with this market?
Well, I can answer that. One of the things that we're focusing on right now is we're finding, a lot of people who are kind of uncomfortable financially, and that uncomfort is leading them to many of them being in situations where they have to make a change.
Right.
Whether it's divorce cases,
right,
probate cases,
right,
foreclosures, and tenant landlord eviction cases. So a lot of our active listings, the ones that have been on the market for a little bit, are those type of listings that are taking longer, granted, but they will end up moving and selling. Right. Because we take on those cases that a lot of agents may not know how to navigate or may not want to navigate. Just because of the nature of posting notices to tenants and having to communicate with probate attorneys. And we just did a short sale, believe it or not, 2 weeks ago.
Wow.
So it's stuff like that takes some extra effort.
Sure.
So that's where we're pivoting and concentrating a lot on our referral and past client business, really solidifying our CRM and communication with past clients. Yeah.
What CRM are you using?
FUB. Follow a Boss.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sure. Do you do anything with, and what about lead sources?
We're breaking them down. A lot of them are referral based and expires this year. Some past clients, some foreclosures. Yeah.
Yeah. We have 8 past clients, 7 referrals, 1 open house, 6 expires, and 3 foreclosures.
I wish it didn't surprise me because it makes sense when we're doing this really as a business. But interesting, you said when you're starting out with Disney that you've got the spreadsheet, so I can already see a systemization, and also you have a very, very good sales aura, for sure, and yet the number of people, whether they're coming to have a conversation like this, it would make sense to maybe I don't know my numbers all the time, but I'm going to come into this and I'm going to have it, ready here. Yeah. You'd be surprised how many people, they do it all by
30 to 40, 20 to 30, 25.
Yeah, they don't know, and so it really is important to know, okay, so 8 of our sales were past clients, 7 were referrals,
6 expires.
6 expires.
1 open house buyer walked in and bought our listing.
Yeah.
And one of the things that, I was just telling Jeanet off camera is that if we've had 7 referral closings and we don't put, necessarily a bunch of effort into getting referral business, I don't want to say it happens by accident, right?
Right.
Because we've built those relationships over time. But if we put more effort, that's why it's important to analyze your numbers. See where you're getting your business from.
Absolutely.
If you put more effort into our referrals, we're going to generate more closings, more
And
income.
Paul is big on this because every time I've spoken to you, Paul, you talk so much about the importance of referrals.
Absolutely.
Because if you don't make them give you other clients, who would?
That's right. You do a great job. You do a great job for somebody, and you've done such a great job for them that you're like, okay, I mean, I have a celebrity client that was referred to me by the photographer that we mentioned, and I mean, the little extra efforts that I did in places that he was like, why'd you do that? And I told him, he's like, oh wow, okay, that's why you're this good, and and he said, I will never use another realtor, as long as I live, which is what you want to hear. But now he has such A-list friends. I'm like, where are the referrals? And so, I'm thinking about how to be more purposeful about that, and how to reward that behavior, and so how do you think? So 7 referrals, like you say, doesn't happen by accident for sure. What would you do to get more referrals?
I would just say contact them more. If it's an attorney, refer them more. Let's say it's a probate attorney, you refer them more probate clients. If it's an escrow company, you give them more escrows. If it's just like you were saying, rewarding that behavior.
Yes.
And really giving so you could get back, right? Not without the expectation so much, just knowing that's kind of how it's going to work. It'll come back, but you just got to give first. So
I give a probate case to my attorney and I go, I'm ready for your side now. I say it like that.
Absolutely.
I say it like that because we all have past deals through our business.
Absolutely.
So I just gave you 3 probates. Now it's your turn, okay?
Yeah. And it's interesting that comes up again because, I look at a particular vendor, and I won't say who it is, but it's a business professional, and he does a great job, so I refer him business. Now, we've been in business together for almost 20 years, and I asked him one time, how much of your business comes either from me or the people that I've referred to you? And he looked back and he said 2/3 of his business. Wow. And I'm like, okay, now I did an interview with a woman named Tara West. Some of these interviews just just such smack you in the head, because sometimes it's hearing what you need to hear. It's like when you need to hear it. And she was just the most lovely, sweet, bubbly, it's all good. And she was so hardcore on her referrals with her vendors. And she's like, oh yeah, my accountant, one of my closest friends, and she's supposed to give me 3 referrals a year. Last year she only gave me 2, and this year I've only had 1 from her, and I'm looking for a new CPA, and I'm like, wow, like she's not messing around.
Yeah.
And most of her business comes from, not surprisingly, from from that level of referral. And it makes sense. Yeah. And so that's the piece. Especially with vendors, you can sort of demand it. With clients, it's a little harder. What do you think about getting client testimonials? Do you work on that?
We ask for 5 and we get 1 or 2. It's hard to get them. I need to find a way to get them before we close escrow.
Yeah. Right, because once you close in, it's impossible.
They got their money and they're
that's
run.
Really important.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
are you enjoying the process? Yeah. Hey, would you mind? That's a great idea. Because I was thinking about these couple of celebrity clients. It's hard to grab them out of their busy day. Right. But when they needed me, they're all over me. I'm all over them. Now's a good time. That's a great before closing. It would also be interesting to reward it somehow, even if it's just like, oh, we offer, like my own voice, I would say, hey, listen, if you don't think I gave you A+ client, A+ customer service, I'm not going to buy it with a gift card to, the fancy coffee shop or whatever. But if you did think I gave you a great rating, when you let me know when you've done the Yelp review and the Google review, and we're going to send you, $50 to Blue Bottle or whatever your favorite coffee place is, or something like that. I think that something like that. I
actually just gave instructions to one of our assistant to create a campaign to send to our clients and follow-up boss.
$20 or $10?
I think it was 20 for a Google review, essentially. So that's funny that you say that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And then do you do it like in a gift, like a
$20 gift card at Starbucks?
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And you know what?
It's sending out today, right?
I think today or next week.
I think you'll get them from that.
You'll get some, right?
I think you will, because if somebody said to me, like, let's say I had a good experience at a restaurant, or I had a good experience with a vendor, and they sent me a thing and said, hey, we would so appreciate the Google review, and by the way, if you do it within, that's what I would do. I would create a little time.
No, that's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
And because otherwise, just knowing human nature, knowing myself, I'd be like, oh, listen, I don't need the $20 coffee card. They did such a great job. I'll get around to it. Now, if it says, if you do it in the next,
by 5 p.m.
we're running a campaign and we really want to, pump it up by, you create some deadline or whatever. We really want to pump it up by August 15th. We've promised our team that we're gonna hit this thing, and if you do it by August 15th, we'd love to have it anyway. If you do it by August 15th, we're going to send you the Starbucks card. I'll bet you get
something.
Yeah, I'll bet you do.
And it's so nice to receive something.
Yeah.
That you didn't even expect it. I met this guy years ago. He was an older white man, and he said to me, you were so nice, Jeanet. It was a nanny referral. He asked me questions about this new nanny who worked for me in the past. I gave him all the questions, all the answers, every detail, and he goes, I'm going to send you something. I go, you don't have to. I just tell you the truth. That was a great nanny. So all of a sudden, 2 weeks later, he was an owner of shampoo place, like a Paul Mitchell. And I received this box, shampoo and conditioner. I was so happy. It's one of those weird things.
It's amazing. It's not the value of it.
He stayed in my mind forever.
That's right. And I refer to Nanny. I refer to Nanny who was an A+, and I know that this woman's going to change their world. I'm like, and by the time I was done with the referral, the guy's like, dude, she's hired. Okay. Yeah. And I know that's been about 6 months ago. And if he would have been thoughtful enough to, like, it's not the money, but if he would have been thoughtful enough to give you like the $20, I'd be like, well, all right,
That's
and there's a I'll get somebody said it a lot better than I'll butcher it a little bit, but they said, when you're watching basketball and somebody gets the great assist, right? The person that makes the shot always turns around and goes hey, and then somehow in that conversation they're like, yeah, but what if they're not looking? They don't see. He's like, they're always looking.
They're
waiting for that. They're waiting for that little bit of acknowledgement. And sorry, we don't have to go even further into it, but my former manager here, who was really, really good, and she was like very luxury, when she sold only to, a Hollywood crowd, and she was so luxury, and she would get referrals for realtors because she was recruiting realtors, and she, anytime she got a referral, she would, and this is a little while ago, she would give them a $5 gift card. And for me, honestly, I would be embarrassed to give a $5 gift card. I prefer not to give a gift card than to give a $5 gift card, right?
Right. I'm like, it's $10.
Right. I mean, yeah. So I mean, it was enough years ago that was like that was enough.
it was
you could
$3.
get the latte for $4.50 or whatever. And I was like, I'm like, really? And like I say, because she was so high end anyway, she was luxury everything. Her cards were perfect. I'm like, really, a $5 gift card? Does that like people want that? And she said, you know what? If I would have known how much a $5 gift card meant to people 5 years ago, I would have started. I would have been giving them out the whole time.
Oprah.
Yeah, and so people do want that that acknowledgement. So I love it. So first of all, you teach me and I teach back a little bit. Maybe we'll put a time frame on your Google thing, because that'll create. Because again, if I got it, I'd be like, yeah, I love those guys. I don't need the gift card. I would do it anyway, but I'll get around to it.
Yeah.
But if it has a deadline, I'd be like, I kind of do want that gift card, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Or if the client have kids, they always want that.
Yeah,
for sure.
Like, help me do this review, mija, then let's do it. So we can get those $20 reward.
Right. And we have a goal of getting like how many, whatever you have now. Let's say you have 20 Google reviews.
No, we have 78.
78. So you go, hey, we have 78 5-star Google reviews. Our goal is to get 100
by the end of the year.
by 100 by the whatever, shorten the time frame up. And
it's a good idea.
If you get in, you can see if you get in under the wire, we're going to send you the $20 gift card. And and for me, I would throw in like, hey, only if you love the service anyway. Like, we're not asking it. Like, if we were a 3-star service, forget it. You're not going to give us a 5-star for $20. We know that, but that's a cool idea. So yeah, we both have our our thing.
Yep.
What counties do you guys service?
LA, Orange, and Riverside.
Okay.
I haven't gone to San Bernardino.
Because I have an idea for you guys on the probate leads. So we'll talk about that after. Because I work with a company that gets them way before they hit the probate board. But it is important, like you said, to have those relationships.
And there seem to be more lately for us.
Yeah, that's a great way.
Mm-hmm.
I call on our team, I call it Life Events Division. So LED, Life Events Division, because the thing is, like, the market goes up and down, but people always. You've got death, you've got divorce, you've got kids going to college, so empty nesters, you've got people that are getting married, you've got people who are getting divorced, you're getting
tenants got to be evicted. Yeah.
And then on the tenants evicted, you're talking about like at a single family house where
or multi-units,
or like a 2 to 4-plex, and that's a life event. That's a very real possibility for a landlord, and that life event hits you. What are you going to do with it? You're going to sell it. You got to kick them out. So
and when you own a lot of properties, it's not that it's not going to happen to you. It's just when it's going to happen to you. But you get one of those tenants.
Oh, for sure.
So
then you find somebody that has a tenant in there that they can't get rid of.
Right.
And then that creates an opportunity to buy. So that they're gonna pass the problem to the next person.
Right.
Essentially.
Or we have the eviction attorney that will do the process while we are in contract with them.
Right. But that's what I mean. You're taking care of that.
Yeah.
You're taking care of that issue. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's smart. That's also very smart. Do you know about the new? It's not all that new, but the FHA piece where if you're, how on an FHA loan, if you're owner occupied, then you qualify. But they're now doing it for 4 units, up to 4 units. Yeah. Are you finding any usefulness in that?
For us, not necessarily. I would say we would find a lot more usefulness if we were buyer heavy, if we worked with a lot of buyers. Our buyers tend to be
buying our listings only, pretty much.
If it's not ourselves, it's partners or very close investors that want to invest. We're not really actively ever looking for buyers for, as new clients to add to our, past client list. So for us, no. But I would say yes if you're buyer heavy, right?
But I was thinking too, if you could find the units that would be right for that, then you could identify them as a potential sale, and then you could line it up with potential buyers. Yeah. I had somebody do the analysis for me, which I don't trust entirely because they did the analysis for me, and they're into bigger things, so they sort of poo-pooing the smaller things to begin with. But they're like, oh, the PMI kills the deal, because on those deals you have PMI, which is mortgage insurance, right? Yeah. And it does add a layer of cost. And he's like, yeah, every time we pencil those deals out, the PMI kills it, at least for an investor. And I'm like, I want to pencil it out myself, because I have friends, like, for example, AJ is on, AJ doesn't own a house. So eventually he's going to want to buy a house, but he doesn't own one, and he's on my team. I'm like, let's go look for like a 3-unit or a 4-unit, and then you can go in as owner occupier for that. And I really want to explore that. I just haven't had time to do it. So I'm going to start looking for, and then another really young guy on our team who's, he's 18 years old. He already sold one listing. It's crazy. And I'm like, you need to, like, he's on vacation, like, when you get back, we're going to find a 4-unit that, that and try and just pencil, because I think that's another area that could be.
Definitely.
That could be.
It's like if I was to start and buy me the first property,
right?
That's what I would buy.
That's right. That's what I would buy if it was the first property for me.
Buy for the kids.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And that's what.
You want to.
That's what I was thinking about. Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Because again, like, for example, my housekeeper who's looking, and she's got good credit and has good money, and and she might put it, she might do it for her kids. I'm thinking, maybe you do a 3-unit, and you use that new rule.
Definitely.
I want to make sure it works, it pencils out. But if it does, I'd love to help people do that for sure.
Absolutely. But Julio focuses so much is the garage detached, because that's where he can create the second.
The ADU, yeah.
ADU.
What about,
because the market has so little inventory in multi-units, you pretty much have to create your units.
Right. And so when you're looking for houses that have the garage, is it you're looking for something that you can then, are you guys buying yourself?
Yeah, sometimes. What I look for is very, very simple. I'm looking for
I like simple.
Yeah. I'm looking for a single family that is not in the greatest condition, that is a 2-bed, 1-bath, whatever, with about a little bit over 1,000 square feet or close to 1,000 square feet, with preferably a detached garage. I get all those 4 points. Give it to me in the 500s or less, preferably in the 4s if I can find it, right? But give it in the 500s and you're solid. You're solid. That's because you can increase the number of bedrooms and baths in the front house, in the main house. Detached garage, people like their privacy. That's the perfect ADU play. You're essentially buying a pseudo duplex.
That's right.
At the price of a distressed single.
That's right. And on that particular deal, let's say you get it at $450, and it's 2-bedroom, 1-bath, 1,000 square feet, has a beat up detached garage, but a little beat up. What sort of money would you of course this is just back of the napkin, but what sort of money would you put into it? What would you get out of it in terms of product, and then what would you get out of it in terms of price? So how many bedrooms would you add? How many would you add another bathroom? What would that look like, and what do you think it would cost?
So my mentality is always get the main house to pay the mortgage, and the ADU, the back house, whatever, to be my profit cash flow. And I always if I'm buying 400 to 500, I'm expecting my mortgage payment to be about 4,200 around there. And if that's my play, then that means my front house has to net me. The rent has to be 4,000, 4,400, 3,800, around the ballpark of that mortgage payment. And then the back, I'm looking for $2,000, and that's what I'm looking to cash flow.
And what does it take in terms of cost to get the house to that?
Give them the home.
It really depends how beat up the house is, and that's why you're looking, ideally, you're looking to purchase the property initially, not under hard money. If you need hard money, then you utilize it. But it's best if you don't and use a conventional loan. Because that way you lock it in, you don't have to pay the extra points on the back end.
For sure.
And, not much work is necessary when you're actually doing the remodeling, right? And so as long as the floors are solid and, so on and so forth, if you're spending $100,000, that's a good play if you're netting, profiting $2,000.
Right, that's right.
A month.
How many of these do you have?
So right now, this entire thing clicked when the ADU boom hit.
Right.
Right now, only 2, I want to say.
That's great, though.
But we have a couple opportunities coming up, and I just want to dive deep into this whole thing.
And so you're thinking in terms of buy and hold.
Buy and hold, yeah. Flip the properties that I know have a good amount of meat on the bone. And when it comes to, and this isn't even just single families. If you can find like a duplex in the 5s that's really, really distressed, that has a detached garage, now it becomes a pseudo triplex that you bought at the price of a distressed duplex, right? Right. So right now I only have 2, but I just want to go head hunting into this, right? Because it all depends what your perspective is, right? Right. We're selling a 1-bed, 1-bath in Glendora right now. That if you look
detached house,
it's distressed. If you're looking at it as a flip for that 1-bed, 1-bath, that's probably not going to net you a lot of money. But if a developer comes in and says, I'm not even looking at it as a flip play with the existing structure, I'm looking at it as a SB9 play or whatever, then that perspective changes. Your ARV changes, your offer changes on the front end. So it's all about perspective. Yeah.
SB9, because not everybody will know that, is a lot split where there are certain requirements, but you can actually take one lot and separate it into 2, which would normally be very difficult to do or impossible. But under a new law passed in California, SB9, some places qualify for it, and then you end up with 2 separate lots, parcels. 2 separate parcels,
and each parcel can have 2. That's right. Yeah.
And ARV, of course, is after renovation value, which most people know, but since we throw out acronyms,
Yeah. But we do have a project in Long Beach. We got it at 450.
Yeah, we just put it on the market today.
We put it on the market today. We got it at 450, and from May to the end of July, property is all ready to go, and it's on the market today at 700.
Wow! And how much did you put into it?
80 flat.
Wow. Yeah. That's great.
What we did with that is it was a 2-bedroom, 1-bath house. We just added a bathroom.
Right.
Now
it makes a big difference.
I'm very good at like how can I configure this wall to maybe take it out to expand the kitchen or move a bathroom, move the closet, expand a room, because the biggest selling points when you're going and flipping a house, you have to give it a little special touches. Yeah. And so the most important is the kitchen, the bathrooms. How am I going to optimize those parts of the house to bring up the perception of value in people's eyes, right?
I'm so bad at that. I hate to even, I believe that words are so powerful, and, I hate to use the word that comes to mind about, I know I'm smart, And I got to tell you, when I look at like space and like, oh, well, if you move that wall or where, I'm like, in my own house, I'm like, I'm just trying to figure out like, how do I make like this one space work? It's not that hard. I just have to like move one wall or put one door somewhere, and I just cannot. So that's my way of saying that I'm gonna have to figure out how to get you out to my house.
Yeah.
Because you'll be like, I mean, to give you an idea, one of the things, well, with my own house, and you guys will appreciate this, I always buy value add.
Yeah.
Now, for example, I'm not going to argue with this. Josh will rely on my advice for real estate investing. I've been doing it so long, and he trusts my advice, and he bought a house in Miracle Mile, and this house was so beautiful and done. And I'm just like, dude, I wouldn't buy it, because it's also very expensive. Now it's gone up quite a bit since he bought it, and he didn't buy it that long ago, so it's not a bad buy. And he just said to me, you know what? I worked so hard. Lola's home with Max. Like I can't have a construction project at home and do all that I need to do at work. Like I want to go home. And he's very good about it. Like after, 7 p.m., he won't return my call. So like, he's not returning clients' calls or whatever.
Right.
Like, I can't get him on the phone, which is great. I really respect that about him. And he's like, I just want to go home and I want to go, to a really beautiful house. Me, on the other hand, I bought a house that was a terrible flip, meaning done already, but done very poorly. And that house does not appeal to the end user because you're basically at the $5 million price point, and they do not want to come in and see apartment grade stuff. And then also a lot of stuff didn't work, so that wipes out the
work they've done.
It wipes out the end users. The end users don't want it. No. And then guess who else doesn't want it? The developers don't want it because they come in, they go, everything's done. It's just done all wrong. Like, forget it. And for me, I went in and even, I do consult with my realtor friends, even though I've been at this a long time, and almost all of them told me not to buy it. But I called one guy who works for me in Studio City. He represents a bunch of developers. He knows the area like the back of his hand. I had a hard time, even though he works for me, I had a hard time getting him on the phone. I called the manager. I'm like, is this guy avoiding me? Like I called him, like he's like, relax. He was in Hawaii with his family. He just got back yesterday. He even said to me, Paul called, like I'm like, I need him for 5 minutes. Goes to his office, gets the guy. He's like, Paul, here's Paul. He's like, tell him I'll call him in a half hour. I'm like, no, 5 minutes. He's like, oh, okay. I tell him the house. He goes, I've been in the house 3 times. I know exactly what the house is. I go, the view is unbelievable. He's like, I've been in the house 3 times. I'm like, oh, okay, sorry. Wasting his time. He already knows the view. Sorry. He goes, what's the deal? I go, here's the price I'm getting it at. And he said, okay, what will it cost to get everything right? I'm like, get it right like I want it right? Or what? He goes, no, like get it right. Like whatever's broken gets fixed, whatever, He's like, what? And I said, well, it's a higher price point. I said, well, and I already had the answer. I go, well, my architect and I had an engineer out because there was a pool and, the maximum $200,000 to get everything, just get all the systems working right, get everything done right. And he goes, okay, well, you're in at, I was in at 4,650. How many square feet? It's, about 4,800 square feet. There's like, even with fixing everything till everything works, you're still at $1,000 a square foot or just under. He's like, you can't get anything. First of all, there's nothing with a view like that on the market right now, period. And even if it were, there's like a bare minimum would be $1,200 a square foot. So you just like grab it. I'm like, okay, done. And while I was in escrow, I got an offer for $1 million more than I paid for it in escrow. Now, interesting is that I also sold, it was at the height of the market. I also sold, that's what people say. When you're at the height of the market, they're like, yeah, I could sell and make a lot of money, but where am I going to go? Well, guess what? I answered that question. So I sold my 3,400 square foot house in Santa Monica, which was nice, but not amazing. And, you get the neighbors are all over you. I got one above me, one beside me. Like, what's so great about this, right? And we sold it for $6.2 million.
Shoot.
And then I go up to Mulholland, and the view's like this. It's like, when I look out of my window, I'm like, this is what I see. I'm like, wow, it's like the view. And so when I get that offer for $1 million more, number one, I got my bags packed, essentially. I got the movers on the way. Right. I have a daughter who wasn't in college yet. His daughter at like her senior year in high school who was giving me a hard time about moving anyway. And then by the time you take its ordinary income, I'm paying 52%, so what am I going to do with the $480,000?
Yeah.
Okay, so now I have $480,000. I want to have to rent a place for, $20,000 a month. It's like, no way. And I knew the realtors that represented the other buyer. They're like, seriously, you've got to have a number. Just tell us what the number is. Our client wants it. I said, look, I'm going to do you a favor. I could tell you a number, but the number's so obnoxious that I know what's on the market, and you can find a house much more beautiful, totally done for the number that I need. So don't make me give you a number, But that's the way, and now I think that if done really right, so I'm taking my time, and if done really right, I think if I put, less than $1 million, but maybe $700,000-800,000 into it, I could be in the $8 million range.
Yeah.
So that's like, I'm still doing it, no matter what. And I've watched people, go from one, even people with a lot of money, go from one house to another, and then they refurbish it. I have a realtor that works for me. He's got loads of money. Makes a lot of money selling real estate. He's been developing for decades. And to this day, he will not buy a house that's done.
You're saying.
Yeah. That's funny that you say that.
Do it.
Yeah. The house I live in, that I bought, we bought it, really, I think, what was our entry?
410.
It was like 440, I want to say, in Downey.
Uh-huh.
And
Close.
it was really beat up, and now that's the house I live in today, and it's beautiful. It's the way I wanted to do it.
It's worth like $750 now. Easy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You do have to be careful about, like, you have to know, and you guys know, but you have to be careful about where to put the money, so that, like, my brother has a house that's like phenomenal, but he didn't do it in an area that supports that.
There we go.
So,
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying.
You buy in the right area, your gap is
you have to connect the area with the stuff that you do in the home.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you could do it by area, and okay, so I have, Formica countertops, that's not good. But do I go granite or do I go marble? It depends.
It depends where you are.
100%. There really is an ROI based on
100%.
Based on
like
those
you said,
things.
I don't want the apartment stuff in
the apartment.
But that's beautiful. That works somewhere else. So
absolutely, it's nice apartments to grade stuff. Like people come in when I'm in the house, I'm like, oh, this thing, right? And they're like, what are you talking about?
Right.
Like, because like you go to Josh's, and Josh's island is like covered with beautiful Carrara marble, which is exactly what mine should be. And his is beautiful. You go to mine, it looks good, but it's that, like, it's the apartment grade, like quartz or whatever it is. It's a fancy plastic, put it to you that way, right? It looks good, but it really is apartment.
Yeah.
It's high-end apartment grade or whatever. And people don't pay $5 million for a house that has
they
that.
focus on those things.
Yeah,
in
sure.
that market, yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
And so that I know that, to put marble there, you're going to get 2 or 3 times or more on the return for that.
Correct.
So one thing that you told me before was you have a very focused expired program, and I was so impressed when you told me about that. Why don't you tell me about it? I mean, I when I get impressed with things, like I could recite it word for word. I could just be like, and here's his program, because everybody calls expireds, and Julio does it
like a clock,
just a little bit differently, and the difference is like night and day. The results are night and day.
Yeah. I mean, just, put simply, if I take it back to day one, I started working with my mom summer of 21, so about July. So we're about, 3 years in. And
actually, you know what? It's a great question to ask. So you're like, your mom's doing great.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, I graduate school. And I'm like, I'm going to help my mom out.
Yeah.
So tell me what that looks like.
I mean, for me at the age of 19, I kind of came to the realization of, how am I in private university? I'm at SC. My brother's also in private university. He's at Harvard. My two little sisters are in private elementary school. That costs money. My mom owns her own, we own the home that we live in, okay? And as a secondary piece, she also has an investment property. How is that possible, off of one main financial source, right? It's real estate. Mm-hmm. So that's one. Number two is I looked at all my Hispanic, Latino close friends. And I said, okay, 3 of them are in this financial situation. 3 of them are in this financial situation. This group of friends their families are very well off. Whether it's they own the franchise buildings of Pollo Locos, Movidas, or they develop fourplexes, whatever, or they sell real estate. And this group of friends, they're not involved in real estate. And it's night and day difference. In both of those scenarios with my own family, and when I look at the families of my friends, there's only one answer. It was real estate. Mm-hmm. Whether it's the developing side, the selling side, whatever, it's real estate. And so when I kind of came to that realization, I was like, let me kind of see what my mom does. And even from that point, from 19, it still took me kind of 2 years to, all right, I'm going to try and get my license.
He was looking for a job with Amazon, kept applying everywhere.
With not specifically with Amazon, but that's what they tell you. You got to try and get internships and this, that, and the other. And even, coming out of college, knowing that when I was, going to start working full-time with my mom, I got a job offer from Amazon. And it's just, when you have a different perspective, I don't want to be making whatever they offered me, $27 an hour for doing something that I feel like is not serving my purpose on the back end.
Yeah.
So it was just, once I turned 21, I was like, let me try that. And this is in the middle of COVID, and I'll circle back to your original question about the expires. When I first started, everybody tells you, I have no past client database thing to go to. I have to attack new clients, new people.
And then the new people, it's like your peer group are not buying houses.
Exactly.
Right.
So that stranger group, everybody tells you, new realtors, you have to attack expires and FSBOs. Little did I know, I didn't know back then that 5, 7, 10 expires a day was a little bit. I didn't know that. I thought it was normal. On days that I would get 12 expires, I thought that was a lot. And we're talking about a big radius here. Mm-hmm. We're talking about Riverside County, OC, LA County. When I would get 7 expires, I'm like, cool, that's normal. So now when I transition into a market that has 40, 50 expires a day, 30 expires a day, I'm like, oh my God, there's so much opportunity out there And when I was making these cold calls back in 21, I didn't know it was a little bit. So I would just do the work, right? And it actually took me 6 months. I didn't close my first deal until January of 22.
Wow.
It took me 6 months to get my first, kind of sell, right? And that came from an expire. But because I filled my pipeline up so much, it took me 6 months to make a sell. But I got a sell in January. I got one in February, one in March, 2 in April. So when you get the ball rolling like that, it's a momentum that you kind of feel, and it empowers and builds confidence in you.
Yeah. I always tell people not to be a part-time realtor.
Yeah.
I mean, it takes so much energy to create what I call one organic deal, meaning that like, my sister is selling. Okay, you're going to get that one anyway. You get one deal that's like unrelated that you generated yourself. It takes so much energy to do that. And to get the second deal, it takes a lot of energy too, but it's a little less, and eventually, right? And that's why I think part-time is just, you could just end up wasting. If you work half the time, you don't get half the business. You may get no business.
Yeah.
That's simple. And then on top of everything, you're new.
Yeah.
And
you're always new. Yeah. So, something I was telling Jeanet is recently I've had trouble kind of connecting with people on the phones in the mornings on these expires calls.
That's right.
I've had trouble, but guess what? The consistency of the output of work cannot change. It cannot change. Just like with any basketball player, you think Steph Curry, even though he makes 40% of his three-pointers, do you think every 10 shots he shoots, he makes 4? No. Sometimes he'll make 8.
Right.
Sometimes he'll make 2. Sometimes he'll make 6.
That's right.
Sometimes he'll make 0.
Right.
So it's a roller coaster that you got to go with.
If you understand statistics, then you understand how, the N is the number. The N is the number of shots, and so when you get a percentage, if your total shots are 10 shots, Steph Curry could hit 10 in a row. He could also miss 10 in a row.
Yeah.
It's like when your N is 10, there's no way to figure that out.
And recently, what I was sharing with Jeanet is I have not gotten outside of yesterday. I had not gotten a strong expire lead from the fresh expires in the morning for a good while, right? I get so-so leads, follow-up leads. But yesterday on the first of the month, because that's my big attack day, I got a good one in
Burbank.
In Burbank. So
we're going tomorrow.
I love it.
And that's, that I didn't stop my consistency of work.
But if you
so
stop,
killer.
because the market right now feels so nasty, Paul, in times. You're getting nothing.
Oh, yeah.
And lots of my mastermind people that I mastermind with, they have 1 or 2 deals. I don't even want to say how much I close to them, because it makes me feel like I don't want to sound that I'm bragging. But we never stop. Like Julio said, yes, with the new market that we're living in right now, it's just so disgusting and nasty. You're getting almost nothing. But if he drops his consistency, look at the Burbank right now. And I don't know if we'll get it tomorrow. We'll give it our best shot. But expires is where the money is the low fruit.
Low-hanging fruit.
Yeah. That's right.
And so
you cannot be closer than expires other than your past clients and referrals.
But it is overpriced listings.
Yeah.
9 out of 10, maybe 8 out of 10.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that, though?
Another thing is, yes, it's about the price, but it's about it's about, at the end of the day, it's about buyers' perceptions of the listing, right? So yes, most of the time that is price, but how do you justify that price, or at least something close to that price, right? A lot of times agents take horrible photos of listings. That's a leg up that we can kind of correct, right?
Are you looking at that before you call?
Oh yeah. Well, no,
Before we meet.
Before we meet.
Before you meet,
yeah. Because then I can do some digging. Before I call, I look at the cities I want to be in, whether that's proximity or destination, like locations I want to sell in, and I look for price points to be okay. That's something I can work with, right? If it's $2 million and if it's a fixer in, I don't know, like
Hollywood.
Let's say like Southgate or something. No, I'm probably not gonna call that expired listing.
Right. So you can choose those.
So, but if I'm looking at a Southgate home that had bad photos and expired at 600, I'm gonna attack that one because I can sell that at 600. If I take better photos, have better presentation, you know.
And with my experience, I always attack over, get me the stats of that agent. 9 out of 10 times, I sell 3 times, 4, 5, 10 times more than that agent. Like yesterday, I had a listing appointment. I said, Mrs. Seller, your previous agent sold, how many homes does it say there? 17. Is that his name? Yeah, that's correct. This is my track record. What does it say there? Jeanet, Salazar. Okay, perfect. What number does it have next to it? Almost 500. Mrs. Seller, if you have a brain surgery, would you use a doctor that have done 17 surgeries, or would you use the one? Oh, no, definitely I will go with this. So I make them say it. Of course, I look at the number. I know it's 498, and I know the other one is 17. Many times the agents have a very good intentions, Mrs. Seller. However, this is your biggest asset right before you retire or now that you're already retired. I have to make sure, I would think, that you don't want to leave money on the table, would you? Oh, no, I want to take all my money. Perfect. So I use those.
Of course.
But I want 950. We know that there's no way she can get 950. She can get 850. And I go, what was the last offers that you received? It was about 850. Why didn't you sell it? Because I want 950. I go, where did you get that 950 from? Did you hire an appraiser?
That's a question she asks a lot. And sometimes what you have to make the sellers feel like you're doing everything in your power to get them that number. And sometimes they have to come to that realization on their own, whether it takes 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And that's why the constant updates while you're listed is so vital when you bring the topic of conversation of price reductions or price improvements, to the table. And so we closed one in Highland Park. It was a duplex. All we did was repaint the outside.
It was brown and red.
It was brown and red with red trimming. We painted it white, put the trimming black, changed the kitchen sink.
And the money went up.
Painted refurbished and painted the cabinets. Cleaned the home because a lot of realtors let their listings become just really dirty.
They probably don't even go there.
And we netted more money for the seller.
The seller walked away with $60,000 more than the previous agent couldn't sell it. We charged them $10,000 for all this work that we did. We changed 2 toilets. We changed the color of the house. And it was very, very minor stuff. But the perspective.
I want to hire you guys.
From the buyer.
I'm ready.
Yeah, there we go.
And so that's where, as a seller, we present to you, maybe that number is possible. You never know. Maybe it's possible with these minor tweaks, right?
If you're open. What I also use now is maybe, Mrs. Seller, maybe you don't have to sell it. Yeah. What happens if you just keep it? Because a house is beautiful.
Yeah,
I will probably,
the negative.
Because they always want to correct you.
Yeah.
Okay? But they always want to, you want to get the truth without asking for that.
Right, that's right. You want them to say it.
You want them, in that,
If you tell
showing them it's different,
Yeah.
completely different. And this is a Mike Ferry coach
Sure.
telling me,
Sure.
make them say.
Sure.
When they say it, they have to hear what they're saying.
And people believe a lower percentage of what you say because you're in a sales
Right.
position.
100%.
But
100%.
people believe 100% of what they say.
100%.
There we go.
Yeah,
I
right.
didn't know that one, but it's
yeah,
perfect because they do believe what they
And
say.
I a lot of times, you know, I've spent the majority of time, you know, I talk to realtors. So, you know, I meet with a realtor from Sotheby's. Sotheby's is a great brand. By the way, it's not a real estate company.
Yeah. It's
Right.
art. Yeah.
It's like Sotheby's doesn't have a real estate company. It's Coldwell Banker affiliate that is licensed to name, but that's cool. So, you know, and the consumers don't know that. So it has value. There's value. So I don't deny the value. But I know that they're doing nothing to help them build their business. I know they're doing nothing to help them build wealth. So you have to ask them, what do they want? And they say, well, you know, I want to, you know, I would like to sell a higher price point, or I'd like to sell more. Well, why is that? What's that going to do for you? Oh, well, you know, I want to live a better lifestyle. I want more income. Well, what are you going to do with more income? Oh, well, you don't want to invest. I want to, oh, okay. So what's that going to do for you? Just keep peeling it back. And then instead, when I get all that, all their needs, I go, you know, I know Sotheby's, they don't do any of this for you. If I say that, right? If I say that,
Exactly.
if I say that, you know, if I did all that lead up and I said it would be okay, maybe,
Yeah.
but instead of that, I go, okay, great. So here's what you want. You want to develop your business so that it creates this. You create passive income so you can send your kids to private school and you don't have to worry and all these sort of things. So let me ask you, at Sotheby's, what do they do to help you build wealth? What do they do to help you? And I already know the answer. They go, absolutely nothing.
Exactly.
And it's so much better. It's
because they sound it.
They say it.
They say
as soon as
it.
you say it, well, you know, now
Yeah,
you're
of
going
course
to talk bad about their house, right? Oh, well, your house isn't that good.
Yeah.
Well, you're never going to win that way.
100%.
Never.
You know, right?
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah.
You can never argue because you will never win. You may win the conversation, but you're not going to win a
You're not
client.
going to make
That's
the
so
sale.
stupid.
That's right.
Pretty
But it
much.
is leading them to the truth. I'm not tricking them.
No, absolutely
No,
not.
You know, I'm
no,
not.
no.
Sotheby's has a phenomenal wealth building program. I'm going to trick them into thinking it doesn't exist. No, I'm going to let them. I'm going to let them say first. Maybe they don't want that. They don't need that. Okay, so why am I going to talk about it anyway? Oh, but that they do want it. Oh, okay, great. So what do they do for you over there? In
the last
area?
3 years,
Yeah.
how that has impacted your life.
Yeah.
Because talking is easy and
Yeah.
it's cheap.
Yeah.
But what have you applied for
Yeah.
the coaching, for the leadership that
Yes.
they've done with
Yeah.
you? You don't hear from them, Paul, for months, okay? You don't hear from them for months. So you're pretty much on your own. And obviously a newer agent may need more, but an agent
yeah.
who's experienced,
I'm writing that
it's
down.
absolutely the truth.
You know, I could ask that. That's a great question. When was the last time your manager reached out to you? Now, these people say, oh, you know, I have a great manager. If I ask him a question, you know, he answers it. That's pretty good. But when was the last time your manager reached out to you to see how are you doing or what can they do? I know the answer to that.
Absolutely.
So I got that one
from
from you.
And I worked with a broker that I had to meet with for 30 minutes. It was usually 25 minutes every single week. And it was so valuable to me because those 25 minutes was for my future.
Yes. Yeah.
So leaders like you do a remarkable to agents like us by saying, hey, we have a coaching call every Tuesday at 3 p.m.
Absolutely.
And block that in your calendar because it's for your future, for your family. And it's like a calm time.
And I'm asking them what are your goals. What are your income goals? What are your wealth goals? What's your passive income goals? People don't even have the passive income goal. And they go, well, I don't know. Well, let's work on it. What are you spending? What are you, how interesting would it be if you had passive income that covered all of your spending? What would it take to do that? Where are you now on that journey? How long would that take? Just building that plan out for them is something that...
And meeting every week, you already know from January 15 when your first year meeting started. So you already opened that sheet in your Google document, hopefully, and you know what he's looking for. You open that and you remember what you discussed the previous week. It's so important because they have your numbers better than you do as an agent. That impresses, and that stays with you.
Oh, for sure.
And that's value.
It's the extra that you guys are doing for your clients. It sets you apart. It's the so many cliches about it, but like the extra mile is it's a lonely.
I was reading this purple sheet. The way you do one thing is how you do everything.
Yes. I didn't get that one until later in life. My mom used to say that to me, and I
way you do one thing is how
and I did this thing where I spoke somewhere and they said, give us 15 life lessons, and that was one of them that I wrote down. And then when they asked me a little bit about it, because I think it is always more interesting to be truthful anyway.
Absolutely.
And, they said, well, tell me about that one, or I think what she said was, no matter how menial the job is, you give it your all.
Best.
Yeah. And it is the same thing as sort of how you do one thing, you do another thing. And I said that, and then somebody asked me about it, and I just laughed. I go, well, to tell you the truth, my mom told me that, I did not do that because when I had a job, like you had a job at Disney that you didn't like, I had a job that I didn't like. Out of law school, I had a fancy law firm job. I absolutely hated it. I did the least possible. I'm like, how little can I do for them not to fire me? That's what I was trying to figure out,
exactly.
Instead of being like, hey, you know what, I may not be here forever, but the days I'm here, I'm going to kill it. And that's my mom's advice, and I didn't take that advice. I was like, but I believe it now. For sure. And I know that that's true. And it's even like, make your bed or whatever, I'm just like, whatever, I don't make my bed. And, and I think that it's, it's like making your bed doesn't make you a better person. It's that these people who are so great, they are the ones who make their bed. It doesn't go that way. But then I realized actually it goes in both directions, so that you make your bed, you start out with a win, and then you start doing
just mentally
and then you start doing everything like
or
that. Or
looking for the good.
Yeah.
Something bad happened, so what? Let's move on. I have so many other goods.
I'll tell you one crazy story, because this guy came up in conversation the other day, just yesterday, and it's really, maybe it's apropos of nothing, but I went to a conference, very small conference, small mastermind group, 12 of us there, and I sat next to a guy named Andrew Chern, and Andrew Chern is a billionaire who owns Panda Express. And I was talking about it with real estate guys, because the value of Panda Express is in the billions, and he's the owner. There's no investors. It's he and his wife. And and we were talking about the real estate piece, and what they didn't realize is they weren't even counting the money, because other than the ones that are in the malls, he owns all the real estate. So he's got billions, in real estate. But he's, I was sitting next to him, and then, they had a break. And it was this little country club. I was sitting next to him. We took a break. But then because they had the break, we all, everybody had to go to the bathroom. So we all go to the bathroom. So we're talking. And while he's talking to me, it's just completely unconscious. While he's talking to me, he starts pulling the paper towels from the thing, and he starts cleaning the top of the thing. And I'm like,
the wet.
I'm like, that's odd. Yeah. And he wasn't doing it for show. He was talking. So he's like, we're in a deep discussion. And he's going like this, and he's cleaning. He goes, yeah, okay, I get that. But what about this? Whatever. And he wipes it down, throws it away. Before he went to the bathroom, I'm like, huh. And I have a mutual friend who knows him very well, and I told him that story. He goes, "Yeah,
that's him."
He goes, "You know what? They lead by example, and you know, whether you love Panda Express or you hate it or it's somewhere in the middle, you're never going to go into a Panda Express where it's not clean, because from the very top, he is always making sure that everything is absolutely, you know." And we went on a consulting thing with him, and you know, and they're right next to Chick-fil-A or whatever, and Chick-fil-A is actually doing a booming business. They're doing better, and we're there, but in front of Panda Express, the sidewalk was absolutely perfectly clean. There's like chewing gum and garbage, all this stuff with the Chick-fil-A, and my friend went with him, and he said, "You know what? Let's talk to the manager of Chick-fil-A." And he's like, "That's weird. It's gonna be weird for me, you know, like go over and talk to the manager." He's like, "Let's do it. You know, it's late at night. Let's go over. You know, tell them you own Panda Express. You know, because they went to visit. You know, right? Tell them you own Panda Express. Let's talk to them. Let's see what their management, what they're doing some stuff right." And they sit down in a booth and they manage you know, he's with his top executives from Panda Express, and my friend who was their they had hired as a management consultant, and they get this thing, and, you know, they're taking all his notes, and there's this great meeting they had with Chick-fil-A, and then by this time it's late at night, and so they leave, and Andrew and the executives, it was Andrew's idea, not my friend's idea. He said, let's get the garbage bags, and as a favor to them, because this manager shared this thing, they get down and they pick all the garbage up in front of the Chick-fil-A. And that's the story he told me when I told him, like, why was Andrew doing that? Like it was a couple of weird things, you know. Billionaires are different generally, you know, right? And I'm like, that was weird. You know, it's how you do one thing is how you do many things. You know, I love the new school, old school too, by the way. I know that you're bringing technology, and so you're using Follow Up Boss. Mm-hmm. One of the more interesting things that I've seen lately is when we talk to realtors, people are tired of hearing about database management, because it's database management, you know, CRM, database management. And so now I've morphed that into productivity management. And so instead of saying, so you get somebody all the way to Julio's level where he's going to understand and he's going to do all the stuff, all the way to somebody that's not even going to touch it. And our idea is to somebody who's not even going to touch it, that you hand them the list. You know, here are the 16 activities that you should do today based on your database, based on the AI that we, you know, who's most likely to transact in your database. And here are the 16 people to call. And you could just fill in, like, called, left a message or whatever, and then hand it back, and it gets all done for you. But that's the degree to which we're working with that's the direction we're moving in, to work with our realtors to that level. And one, again, because I interview a lot of people, there's a productivity, and the CRM that we have can do it all. But I saw a guy, I met with a guy recently who did it at a very high level, and what he did was and by the way, he has no idea, like wouldn't even open Follow Up Boss, but he hired a summer intern, and the summer intern had Follow Up Boss with a plug-in of, I'm going to say it wrong because it's Asana.
I know what that is.
And I've used Asana. I just confuse it because in yoga it's Asana. So Asana, it's spelled the same way. And Follow Up Boss allows Asana as a plugin. And so between those two programs, it's spitting out exactly what he should be doing. And I have used Asana before, so I know how it, it's just a task manager. And,
Task manager.
And you give it a date, and then, if you have a manager, even if you two are working together, like, oh, I'm working with Josh, neither one's the boss, but there's 4 things we need to do, and this one thing gets assigned to me, these 3 things get assigned to Josh. As soon as Josh does it, it sends me and him an email. It says, Josh did his thing, and then it
cool.
tees up the next thing.
Yeah.
And it changed this guy's productivity dramatically. Dramatically
No
changed
kidding.
because he already did the great realtor thing, which is like he has a really good business, but he just sort of calls whenever he calls, and
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 it's
when
so
he gets
easy to get like that.
and when he gets real busy, then he stops lead generating, and then and then when the business drops down, he's freaked out, and then he does all the lead generating, then his business ramps back up.
Yeah, it's pretty.
And he's like, this has really
Pretty
changed.
common.
This has changed my life. I'm like, well, I got to look into it. And when I looked into it, it was just a combination of those two, because there are better CRMs than Follow Up Boss. But again, it's a Josh thing. Like, if you ask him about working out, he'll say, well, look, the workout that's going to work is the one that you're actually going to do.
Yeah.
So don't like, you don't want to know what I do,
100%.
because you're not going to do it.
100%.
So
it's what you do.
right.
No,
So
it's doing the work.
Yeah.
Everything else it's manageable.
That's right.
Julio loves Follow Up Boss. Everything is
I
calendar.
know Follow Up
everything
Boss
is
too, because one of the great things about Follow Up Boss is that it's user friendly.
It's
It's
very
user-friendly,
user-friendly.
texting,
Right.
everything there.
Right.
And we have hired a virtual assistant back in April.
April. Yeah.
And she manages the Follow Up Boss.
Where did
he
you
gives her instructions.
where'd you find the
She's in Philippines.
what service did you use to find her?
No.
It wasn't. Yeah, we didn't use any specific headhunter. She was just a VA for our previous CRM, and then what was it called? Driven. And then she, I don't know if she got let go or she stopped working for the.
Driven is a CRM service, $1,250 a month. The most expensive thing, and everything that they do different than Follow Up Boss is send text messages to Paul because it's his birthday and mail the little card saying happy birthday, Paul. That is the only thing different. So this virtual assistant was assigned to be the person who helped me through this other CRM.
Kind of like her account manager, I guess.
My account manager,
right,
my
right,
person.
right.
I could only use her 15 minutes once or twice a week for that
crazy.
money. So I really liked her. She was so detailed. She's young. She's like 25, 26 years old. But no matter what sometimes your attitude, you're busy, you're running, you just whatever, right? So blunt on things. But she never gave me bad attitude. She was always on point. For technology, fast. Postings, fast. And then the manager for this Driven, she said, you can't be using her. You may need an assistant. So I said, I'm going to fire her and I'm going to take this girl. I'm going to talk to her how much she's making, because I'm sure with this attitude, she's not making a lot of money. And I'm going to pay her more, and she's coming with me. And that's exactly what I did.
Wow.
We quit working with the CRM. She said, I can't work with you because I already work with her. And I said, that's fine. When you're ready, I'm going to offer you this much money. When you're ready, you don't have to come now. And he was not too happy because he always watches everything in the budget. If we get out of the budget, but I just hired her. She was so cheap for me, in my opinion. One day she texted me and she said, I'm ready to work for you.
I love it. I have a great virtual assistant in the Philippines as well.
It's amazing.
Yeah. And I was nervous about are we paying too
Training.
little, or is it like, I don't want to do anything bad. And they're like, well, let me tell you what happened. Here's where she was at her other job, which was like Bank of America,
Yeah, no. Yeah.
And it's like,
sure.
she
They
has to
make
get
nothing.
she has to get all dressed up, drive down there, they work through the middle of the night because she's working through the middle of the night.
Yes.
And
They
I'm like,
work the night.
and I'm like, I don't know if I like this because I don't want to put, and then she has kids. I'm like, this doesn't feel right. She goes, okay, well, her former job was at Bank of America. She had to drive downtown. She had to dress up because I guess some of their things were on video to pretend like she was in an office, which she really wasn't. She was dressed up like in an office. She just sit there, work. They pay her less. So you're paying her 20% more. She works from home. And now when she works through the night, when she clocks off of work, she makes her kids breakfast. She drives her kids to school, and then she comes home and goes to sleep while they're at school. And it's way better for her.
It works
I'm
so
like,
much
all right,
better.
fine.
Yeah. And you and I think just so alike in terms of that.
Yeah.
I asked her, do you have kids? She said, I have a daughter. I said, what age? 7. I go, would you clock with me? Is it time for her to go to school? She said, yeah. I said, listen, you're going to start 1 hour later with me. But you must take care of your daughter. Okay?
Absolutely.
Do her hair, make sure she brush her teeth.
Yes.
And then you can worry less about everything else. Why? Because she will perform better.
Absolutely.
By doing
it's always better, just the karma of it, the karma of it. And back to, like I said, apropos of nothing, I learned the lesson that my mom was trying to teach me from Andrew Churn. And it took me till I was, because this probably happened, I'm 59, it probably happened 9 years ago, so maybe it took me till 50 to do that. And one thing I do, I've never said it out loud because it's about the karma, it's not about getting the credit for it. When I'm in the bathroom, and plus it's my office, right? People, they take the paper towels, they throw, I take a paper towel so I'm not getting it on my hand, but I pick up all the trash whenever I'm in the bathroom. Or when I go to the yoga studio, I pick up everybody else. People, they take a shower, they throw the towel on the floor. So, and I'm telling you that, I'm admitting to you that I'm doing it for myself. I'm not really doing it for them. Because the opposite is, do you want to be the person who takes a shower and throws the towel on the floor for somebody else to pick up? Do you want to be that person? And so the opposite is, no, I actually want to be the person that does this thing. And so I'm really doing it for myself.
Here we go. I love it. Absolutely.
You know what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you guys questions. I'll go one at a time.
That's fine.
I'll ask you different questions. It's a fire round, so each one of these questions we could talk a long time about. But I'll just ask and then move on. So, Jeanette, what's your idea of perfect happiness?
Being able to spend more time with my kids, with my 2 daughters, 11 and 13 years old.
What's your greatest fear?
Not being able to provide my family experiences. I took my sisters to Cabo last month, and we did some bungee jump thing, and they will never stop talking about that till the day they die. That's my biggest fear, not being able to provide those moments for my kids, my sisters, and yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
What's your favorite childhood memory?
Running and winning. We run and we win. I win.
I love it. What's the best compliment you've ever gotten?
For me, to him, very fast, is he has 5, 6 different bank accounts and he distributes his money so well. Paul?
Profit First. Do you know that book?
Mm.
That's the concept.
That's the concept.
Look up Profit First or get the synopsis of it. Yeah, it's super cool. It's one of these amazing things that I learned that I don't do. So I'm going to take it from Julio and do that. Profit First. What's an insult you've received that you're proud of?
You are over positive.
And I'll chime in because she chimed in on mine. For her, I would say she's too aggressive.
Mm.
Yeah. But it's the best, bad thing, quote unquote, that could have ever happened to her to have that personality, because that's gotten her to where she is today, you know.
He asked me in the family, I don't even know how all those sellers signed with her. Because she's so aggressive.
Yeah.
I love it.
I just aggressive. I don't have it, Paul. What if they said yes for being aggressive? What if I get the yes?
There's a saying that my mom says, I will lose more deals not being aggressive than I will
That's Ziegler.
being aggressive.
Ziegler. I learned it from Ziegler.
So
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
You will lose more. I went to this door knock very fast. The guy snoring in the living room. And I go, I need to speak with him, but I feel so bad waking him up. And I'm turning to go back to my car. 2 steps to my car. I said, no, I came here for them. Went back and knocked on his door. I got the listing, I sold it, and I finished the deal.
I love it. If you could be remembered for one thing, what would it be?
Just spending so much time with my kids and family that, you know, we have so many memories to go back to. You know, just experiences really, and always being present and providing. Yeah.
I love it.
One of his biggest things for his father, he said, I love my dad, always brought me food. And
taking me to practice.
Taking me to practice.
Nice.
You see, that has nothing to do with money. It has
Absolutely.
nothing to do with working 20 hours.
Absolutely.
That's big. That was big. It made me cry for Father's Day.
So, Jeanet, you go on a hike, you climb up the hill. There's lots of great hills. Look at the view. You know, you get to the top of the hill, tough hike, and you stand at the top of the hill and you look down, and there's your family, and there's the people, their colleagues, the people you work with, there's the people you've sold houses, the community, and you shout one thing. What do you shout?
Be aggressive. Don't be afraid. Go for the things that give you the most scariest feeling. If it scares you, that means you must do it.
I love it. That's great advice.
Go for it.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed this. This is going to be very, very valuable. You know, we'll cut it, make it look beautiful. You'll have great marketing materials, but this is going to be. It's been very valuable for me.
For sure.
Thanks, Paul. I
Thank
appreciate
you very much.
Yeah, I wish
really appreciate
more
it.
brokers will do what you do. Okay.
Thank you.
Really do.